What to watch for as the Texans return to NRG, plus a lot of wild stuff going on around the league. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah.
Good live.
It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop.
Texans back on the field tomorrow. It's going to be a lovely thing. We'll hear from DeMeco Ryans. We'll hear from some players. We'll react to it on SNL live at 4 o'clock on all podcast platforms. And most importantly, right here on YouTube with me and Cody Stutz. We'll also have the night stream, and we'll get ready for the season as the season approaches. We are getting close to training camp. Big news today with the Texans. Speaking of training camp, the Texans and Panthers will have joint practices in Houston ahead of their August 16th preseason game. This from Jonathan Alexander of the Houston Chronicles. So we wondered, will we get the joint practice in Minnesota? Will we get the joint practice somewhere else? Carolina Panthers, some interesting matchups. We've obviously familiarized ourselves with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. But we'll get to see that. Ted McMillan, one of the more polarizing talking points during the offseason, especially the draft process. Never really a chance that the Texans could get him, but we'll get to see him go toe-to-toe with the Texans corners and some other interesting matchups to check out as well. Joint practices are always my favorite part of training camp. It's like watching, it's the preseason game. There's really not much to it, but for some reason in these practices, it's almost like college football type pride. I think a lot of times in training camp, players, I think, get bored, especially the ones that aren't necessarily preparing for games. The dark days, eventually it gets kind of stale. You go out to practice, you get tired. You always hear coaches say it. You've heard DeMeco say it. You've heard really every football coach ever say, we're tired of hitting each other. It's going to be nice to hit someone else. There's always that question from the basic media type that's, are y'all ready to hit someone else? Y'all been hitting each other out here this whole time. You get to do that when you have these practices, and you go to practice with kind of a mindset. So you can always feel the intensity. No word yet whether these will be open practices. I'm assuming they will be. Typically they are. At least one of them is. It's going to be a weekend ball game, so probably get a couple of practices, 2, maybe 3. You never know. And it's going to be out there in that Houston heat, and this is fun. So mark your calendar for that Texans and Panthers joint practice. I know Jonathan Alexander of the Chronicle is very excited about that because he actually was out in Carolina covering this squad. And I do got you covered on what to do tomorrow, what to watch for. I have a list of things to watch for, and this is what I'm going to be looking for. Some people will say, well, it's just OTA. I disagree. This is going to be the first look that we have of this portion of Texans players. And we're going to get to look at these guys. So there is a lot to look at. There's a lot going on around the league, which we'll get to in a sec. On the super chat, HDAV Traveler, per usual. Shout out to the community, the locker room, Houston football, Cody Stutz community. Shout out to Austin Jack out there doing his thing.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Oscar says, how do you manage to do this every day? You don't get tired? No, I was doing this even when hosting the top radio show in town for 4 hours. So I do it twice a day, 4 o'clock, 10:30. This is my new life. I've been broadcasting, talking about sports for close to 20 years now. You go back to college. So this is kind of the new era. It's a lot easier because you can just walk down the hall if you have your studio set up and you can get it done. And you take all your journalism experience, your broadcasting experience, your pulse of the squad, and you do it. and it's not optional. It's a job. It helps pay bills, and that's just kind of how you do it on the digital side of things. So no, it's an obligation. It's the way to do it. Mike M has a good memory. You can tell he is a strong listener / viewer. He says, you say you like joint practices, but didn't you almost get killed at the Lions practice? Something with a 4-wheeler. Yeah, Matt Patricia's fat ass almost ran over my foot. He actually hit my side with a 4-wheeler because he was just being a reckless jackass on basically a deadly weapon. And if he would have hit my foot, I would probably still be broadcasting, but I would probably be doing it in a mansion because I definitely would have sued his fat ass. The way that he was driving around in that 4-wheeler was an absolute disgrace. It was like between the two fields, he was riding around like Stone Cold Steve Austin on a beer truck. So yes, I did. I have some fun with it because it didn't go bad, but it definitely was a little bit of a nudge from old Matt Patricia. God, he sucked. He's supposedly pretty skinny now. I think he's actually skinny now. So I'm calling him fat. Let's see. Matt Patricia weight loss. We got images. Is he skinny now? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's on that. Yeah, he's definitely. I don't know what my man is on now. But yeah, they don't have like a real solid pic of him, but I think he was actually on part of my take. So yeah, he's lost some weight. I don't even know what he's up to now. Don't really care. Not a big Matt Patricia guy. To say the very least. So let's go through what to watch for when it comes to the Texans tomorrow as they arrive at NRG. And again, there's plenty to watch for here, and there's plenty of things to look at. Much like a rookie mini camp, there was some stuff to look at. I don't know that everyone was paying as much attention to it, but I mean, between Jalen Reed doing Jalen Petrie practice stuff, between some of the body types, the receivers, the way that Kaylee was interacting with them. Now that you're going to have the full squad in front of you, there's a lot of things to watch. First one, I'm going to start with the most important position, and the guy going into the most important season, maybe of his career. Because if you knock it out of the park here, you're going to have generational wealth, and it's probably going to happen regardless. But if you leave, no doubt, CJ Stroud's going to be very, 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 very rich after this year when he's eligible for the extension. So the CJ Stroud vibe, how does he look? I mean, he looked miserable last year. He looked worn out. He looked tired. He talked about trying to have more fun. He talked about trying to control what he can control. And quite frankly, I get it. I get it. You're having to run for your life. You're getting roughed up. He said, I think the quote was that, stuff was a little bit more difficult. The schedule was just insane. It was a complete 180 from what he'd been used to. The travel time, the time in between. I think by the end of the season, CJ Stroud was exhausted. And you could kind of tell, you could kind of see it. It wasn't the same spirit that CJ Stroud had in his rookie season. And it was interesting because I was looking for some pictures for the thumbnail here. And I typed in CJ Stroud smiling because I wanted to get like a picture of CJ Stroud smiling because the guys are back on the field and that's exciting. So the face of the franchise smiling on the thumbnail would be a good thing, or at least a good asset to have for the thumbnail. If you type in, and y'all should all try this. If you type in CJ Stroud smiling, look at the pictures that come up. They're all in the old uniforms. They're all in his 2023 season. There's not very many pictures of CJ Stroud smiling in 2025. And I'll just do it right here. I'll just show you this right now. I got the new tab up. And we'll type in CJ Stroud smiling. See, I already have it up. I'm not making this story up. So we type in CJ Stroud smiling. Look right there. That's 2023. So we type the images. All right, there's 2023, there's 2023, 2023, 2023, 2023. Not necessarily 2023. 2023, 2023. Like you don't get a picture in the new uniform. 2023. There's no images of CJ Stroud really smiling last year. And I mean that's just a small little exercise. But it's what it is. Let's look at it. There's the smirk. Old uniforms. Old uniforms. Old uniforms. I guess there's one. But it's all the old stuff. Look at that. And we kind of saw it in front of us last year in the media. So the CJ Stroud vibe will be interesting. I think CJ Stroud will speak. I don't know what they're going to do. They say players, so they don't have like a specific player listed. But I would assume that CJ and Will, but who knows? Who knows who they'll send up there? But CJ Stroud, the vibe, that's going to be something to look at. How's he looking? Does he look recharged? You know what it's like when you go back to work after a break. Whether it's a Christmas break, spring break, hell, just a vacation, hell, just a 3-day weekend. Sometimes there's a little bit of a recharge. So it'll be interesting to see what CJ Stroud looks like and what that vibe is like, because he was obviously laying low a little bit more this offseason. So that's the first thing to watch for tomorrow as the Texans take the field. The next thing is Joe Mixon. ... Joe Mixon. I know he's got his camp in the coming weeks, but I saw that Aaron Wilson said, kind of buried it in the back of the video, that Joe Mixon was in a walking boot not too long ago. He said it something, but it's not anything big. Will Joe Mixon be out there? Will Joe Mixon be on the side? Will Joe Mixon be walking okay? What is that going to look like? I don't know. And this is one of those things where there was like some under the radar type of dialogue about it, but now got to keep a close eye on it. What does Joe Mixon look like? What does the whole position group as a whole look like? Which brings us to the next thing, what to watch for. The position groups, just kind of the eye test. What do the position groups look like? In other words, when you see the receivers all together, can you imagine that being a good receiver room? This is the off the bus exercise that we always talk about. Man, that team looks impressive coming off the bus. What does the offensive line look like? What do they look like next to each other? What does each individual offensive line look like? Alignment look like? We'll get to that in a second. As the list continues, the tight ends, how do they look all together? The running backs, we mentioned Mixon. What does the running back room look together? Like when you see the position groups warming up together, it kind of provides like the first visual. And this will just be them kind of messing around and figuring some stuff out. And quite frankly, you could be out of shape right now and then work your way into shape. I've been a part of what's the word to use? Like regimes where someone's trying to work their way back into shape before training camp. Been a part of some of those basketball games. Don't get too close. You don't want them to step on your foot. But he's out of shape and trying to work it out. So, but this will be the first, and I'm sure that a lot of these guys have been working out. So we'll get a look at what that looks like. I don't know the Mixon thing. I just saw it buried in one of Aaron's videos. That's all I saw. So we'll see how he looks and what it looks like, and if Joe Mixon's out there. Who knows? We'll keep an eye on that. But the position groups, what do they look like? Next thing to watch for, the body transformations. What does Cade Stover look like? They probably told him that he needed to get stronger. Going to have to block better. Cade Stover, what does he look like? Blake Fisher, big year for him. His first year in an NFL offseason program. What does he look like? I think Will Anderson's already got put on a ton of weight last year and this year. Kamari Lassiter, I've seen the Instagram videos. He's a massive human being. Last year, Toa Toa was the guy who lost a lot of body fat. Said that he was too fat the previous year. So what do the body transformations look like? Does Juice Scruggs look a lot stronger? Does Jared Patterson look a lot stronger? What do these guys look like when you get the first glimpse of them, specifically the second year guys in Fisher, Stover, and we already mentioned Kamari Lassiter. So what does that look like? Titus Howard looked he looked like he was in shape in the video that they put up the other day. A big year for Titus Howard. What do the body transformations look like? And we'll be taking notes on all this, and we'll update you on it on SNL as well as right here. The next one, and this is the offensive line test. This is a real early look, and this is my Khalil, Britt, Mason early signs. You could tell with these guys, Matt Khalil, Justin Britt, and Shaq Mason, the second that you saw them, that these guys were washed and that it just wasn't going to work out for them. Texans signed a lot of veterans on the interior offensive line that I don't know that they really expect to start. What does Brown look like? What does Trent Brown look like? What does Laken Tomlinson look like? I anticipate he's the ultimate professional. He never misses games. He's going to be in shape. What does Ingram look like? Who they brought in? We already mentioned Titus, but these veterans that are kind of on the back end. What does Robinson look like? What does Cam Robinson look like? Because it comes tumbling down very quickly for offensive linemen. And there are a lot of Matt Khalil, Justin Britt, Shaq Mason early signs. I was on the Shaq Mason thing last year. You could see the way he was moving. You could hear those knees popping from Kirby. We park all the way like where the parking lot was. You could hear Shaq Mason's knees popping as soon as he was walking down the bridge. Justin Britt, my God. I wanted to give him a piggyback. He weighed 100 pounds more than me. Matt Khalil, my gosh. That was tough. That was tough. Matt Khalil, I think the year that they brought him in with O'Brien was at 19. Yeah, it was 19. He wasn't running. He wasn't running better than a 6 flat 40. And you can kind of see that. So will we see any early signs on this offensive line with these veterans that they've brought in? And the next thing to watch for, and this is going to be during, after, because it's going to happen. We talked about earlier today. I think the top 5 wide receiver spots are on lock. Matter of fact, I said you could get odds at the Landry Locker Sportsbook that John Mechie is a Carolina Panther when the Texans practice against the Panthers. They reunite him with Bryce Young. Just threw that out there. But I think 5 receiver spots are already decided. The way that DeMeco Ryans has talked about Watson, I think he's a lock to make the team. I think that the 2 rookies, obviously, Knoll and Higgins, are locks to make the team. Captain Kirk has arrived. He is going to make the team.
Captain Kirk has arrived. I repeat, Captain Kirk has arrived.
And we know that Nico Collins will make the team. So who does that leave? Xavier Hutchinson's getting a lot of praise. They brought in Braxton Berrios, although they have a couple slots now. Like what does that mean for John Mechie? I feel like John Mechie could be on another team, but I will promise you this. If John Mechie is there tomorrow, someone in the local media is going to gas John Mechie up. There will be either a story, a mention about how great John Mechie looks. Even if they're just running around and all that. John Mechie, look out for John Mechie. It has happened. It happens all the time. Y'all know it. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Who in the local media will gas up John Mechie? Stay tuned. It's going to happen. And we'll see what happens. Maybe John Mechie competes for that 6th spot. Kind of feel like you're going to need to play a little bit more special teams. I know he had the tackle that Frank Ross scouted out last year against the Cowboys. But someone in the local media is going to gas up John Mechie. That's a promise. That's a guarantee. I can assure you that would happen. So we'll see what happens with with John Mechie, and everything else. And that's really what we're looking for. We're not gonna get like some big idea of what Nick Caley's gonna do, which is really the big mystery of the offseason. We'll hear from Nick Caley on Friday. But this is the first look at guys who's in shape. Who can is there anything like getting off the bus that you can imagine, the power rankings, observations, all that type of stuff? I will say that this was just from like the first step of this type of process or exercise in the offseason. The rookies, this is the most physically imposing rookie class that I've seen from the Houston Texans. Like, as far as looking like guys that have already been in an NFL offseason program, I don't know who the strength and conditioning coach is at Iowa State. It's a different one than the one that Xavier Hutchinson had, but whatever the hell he's doing, he has these guys looking. I mean, between Knoll and Higgins, they look like they've already gone through NFL offseason programs. But there are a couple guys that we need to keep an eye on. And there's a couple of guys that are going to have to physically get stronger. And I think the guys that should feel the most pressure are the guys on the offensive line that were here last year. Because none of them, we're not chalking any of these guys down as starters. So Juice Scruggs, what is Juice Scruggs looking like? He's got to stay healthy too. What is he looking like? What is Jared Patterson looking like? What's Titus Howard looking like? Those are the guys that you're going to have to see it from. I think Cade Stover's probably going to look like freaking Popeye or something like that. His country ass is going to be swole. I will be shocked if Cade Stover doesn't look massive. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on with that, and we'll give that to you on SNL and right here. And we'll also see what's up with Dalton Schultz. He's probably just chilling. He's probably just hanging out. I don't know if Dalton Schultz is feeling the pressure or not. Let's go around the league real quick here in the locker room. Around the league, localized as always, per usual. Just touching on some stuff as the offseason activities have continued. There's a couple of interesting headlines today, and we'll try to localize this a little bit. The Buffalo Bills are in an interesting situation right now. We mentioned John Mechie. One of the guys that went ahead of him, or after him, I should say, Dalvin Cook, he's holding out. That's a problem for Buffalo. I anticipate they figure it out. He's very valuable to what they do. And that's probably the big holdout that is going to be getting a lot of attention in the offseason. Seems like the running back's always that. But Buffalo definitely needs Dalvin Cook. That's a really massive deal for them. Something else about the Bills, and this was brought up on I was watching ESPN Bet today, which I think is actually a really good show. I don't know if y'all watched that. I don't know if you wager or not. But ESPN Bet is a really interesting show. The Buffalo Bills schedule, as you talk about the Texans trying to get some momentum and perhaps like position themselves better in the postseason, the Buffalo Bills schedule is absolutely insane for a team that went as far as they did. The Buffalo Bills, could I interest you in some stats? They have right now the 5th easiest schedule, and they travel the 2nd fewest miles. Now, their gap between days of rest is 8, which is near the top. But if you look at their schedule, the Buffalo Bills schedule, a lot of this speaks to the AFC East. But look at this schedule here. So they're going to start against Baltimore. That's tough. Then they got the Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Patriots, Falcons, bye, Carolina, KC, Miami, Tampa Bay. They got the Texans. Then they got the Steelers. Then they got the Bengals. Then they got the Patriots, the Browns, Eagles, Jets. Buffalo has an easy ass schedule. You're talking about, normally you look at Baltimore and you look at KC, Buffalo too. But my God, that is what a blessing it is to be in the East. And I'm not sitting here acting like the AFC South is good. I'm not even acting like the Texans are as good as the Buffalo Bills, regardless of what happened last year. But my God, what an easy schedule that the Bills have. We just mentioned the Bengals, the noise coming out of Cincinnati, and it's always entertaining noise whenever Jamar Chase speaks. I think he is the best interview in the game. I think he does the best job answering the questions. I think the Cincinnati media is very underrated when it comes to asking the questions, and I think he's entertaining. I was glad to see him get the bag. I think he's great. I wish every player interacted with the media, and I wish every media handled their business like Cincinnati. I don't even know who's on that beat, but when I notice, because I'm a nerdy ass dude and I watch all these press conferences, when I notice a really good media group, I always shout them out. I think the Indianapolis Colts have some of the best array of beat writers that there are as far as knowledge and all the nerdy shit that I like. Zach Kiefer's now one of the head athletic guys. So I think they do a good job. I think Cincinnati does as well. But I say all that to say that Jamar Chase is saying that he believes, and this is really rare, we don't hear this very often, but he believes that the Cincinnati Bengals, that they need to play more in the preseason. And he has data to back this up. And he was actually the one that brought it up with the media. So in Zach Taylor's 6 years as head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, he notoriously plays his starters less than most coaches. So he's near the bottom when it comes to the percentage of time in which he plays his stars, which is probably smart with Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow can't really stay healthy. But he doesn't really play his starters. And we always see Cincinnati get off to these slow starts. So we just talked about the two stats with Buffalo that I got courtesy of ESPN Bet, where they have the fifth easiest schedule and the second fewest miles traveled in their schedule. The Cincinnati Bengals in the first 2 weeks of the season with Zach Taylor, the Cincinnati Bengals are 1-11 in the first 2 games of the season since Zach Taylor's been there. 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of the season with Zach Taylor as head coach. That is crazy. That is absolutely insane to be 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of the season. And this is a pretty good team, but you got to figure something out if you're Zach Taylor. You got to figure something out because something's got to change. I mean, that's not a coincidence. At some point you're doing something wrong with that much of a sample size. That's over a half decade. That's the COVID season. That's the regular seasons. That's 16 game season. That's 17 game season. Something you're doing is wrong to start 1-11 in your first 2 games. To the point where now your franchise receiver, the guy that you just gave the bag to, is saying that y'all need to play more in the preseason. That's a crazy stat about 2 teams that the Texans are competing with in the AFC when it comes to getting home field advantage. Other stuff going on around the league. Kirk Cousins, no show at Falcons OTAs. My response to that is no kidding. What would he be there for? They have no plans for him. Now he has a no trade clause, which is just kind of weird. He probably should just waive that and figure something out. It was an interesting move for the Falcons to give him as much as they did coming off the Achilles. Now he started out pretty well, but now obviously they're in the Penix era. But Kirk Cousins not at Atlanta OTAs. I don't know what the solution's going to be there. Who even wants him? Could he be in Pittsburgh? It feels like, though, that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the one in Pittsburgh. He's been working out with DK Metcalf. And there are Aaron Rodgers headlines all over Pittsburgh, including one by the most famous quarterback one of the most famous players in franchise history, the great Terry Bradshaw. This was his quote about Aaron Rodgers, and he always has opinions. Remember when he said Brock Osweiler sucked? But here's Terry Bradshaw's quote, "That's a joke. To me, that's a joke," Bradshaw said. And this was on ESPN.com. "What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California. Go somewhere and chew on bark." Close quote from Terry Bradshaw. So he's not down with the Aaron Rodgers experiment. It seems inevitable. They were interviewing Mason Rudolph about it. Mason Rudolph with his mustache, basically saying, "I'm kind of used to this." But the Aaron Rodgers thing seems like one of the worst kept secrets that there is, that he's going to end up there. At this point, it would almost be surprising if it didn't happen. I would assume they're more than the betting favorite for his services. But we'll keep an eye on the Aaron Rodgers situation. Also, Aiden Hutchinson, the man who went the pick before Derek Stingley and the pick after Travon Walker. Good God, Jacksonville. Jacksonville took Travon Walker before Derek Stingley and Aiden Hutchinson. It's kind of a rough look for the Jags. Pour one out for Trent Baalke, one of the worst GMs. One of the worst, best GMs, maybe? Is that how we say it? But Aiden Hutchinson's back. He's going to get paid soon. I think this will be a starting point for Will Anderson. I don't anticipate that Will Anderson gets as big of a bag as Aiden Hutchinson. He's not as good of a player, but you never know with Will Anderson. Like, Will Anderson could easily, would it shock you if Will Anderson comes back and he's better? I would bet on it, Will Anderson being better. Does he propel himself to like defensive player of the year type conversations? I mean, I don't think he's overly far off. So maybe the Aiden Hutchinson, the bag, it's at least a starting point when it comes to those negotiations. Hell, who knows? Nick Caserio can't negotiate contracts. He doesn't win contracts. So maybe he shatters the Aiden Hutchinson total, but that's something to keep an eye on when it comes to Hutchinson. I saw his projection on Twitter. I don't have it off the top of my head. I would say you probably start at Myles Garrett. And you also probably, if you're Aiden Hutchinson, you maybe want to wait for Micah Parsons to get paid. Because Mulligetta is negotiating that one. Cowboys are going to pay him. So maybe you wait for that. Will Anderson's kind of in a good spot because he's got Danielle Hunter, who they gave the extension to, which I would assume that Will Anderson's going to get more than that. That's another element of giving Danielle Hunter the early extension that Nick Caserio gave. I mean, you got to think Will Anderson's going to say, "I need more than Danielle Hunter. I'm better than him right now." So that's something to keep an eye on. But when it comes to the Will Anderson bag, he's got some good places to measure his talents, and it's inevitable. I don't know whether they split up him and CJ or how they figure it out, but they'll figure it out, and they'll be keeping an eye on it. As far as other stuff to look for at OTAs, are we playing the Dameon Pierce game? Like, are we doing that? I'm not. He ironically might be RB1 tomorrow. It might be a Gumbawale. I don't anticipate them doing much team. So there's that. But if Mixon is not going, or if Mixon can't go, it's gonna be funny when Mixon's just running full speed and ready to go, though. But we'll keep an eye on that. I'm not really in the Dameon Pierce game. I think Jalen Petry's backups. I think Jalen Reed is probably just going to be following around Jalen Petry, doing the exact same things he did. And I like Jalen Reed out of Penn State. I thought, that was part of my criticism of the Petry extension is there's some guys that can do stuff like him that you can get good value at. And they took Reed. So we'll see how that looks. As far as like, there's a lot of people asking, who's going to be RB2, who's going to be that. I don't even know that we get a good idea of who's what next year. I'm assuming that the offensive line will line up in some capacity, and that'll be the first thing that we look to and provide you coverage with, myself and Stutz. But I don't anticipate there's not going to be a lot of contact, but I think maybe CJ Stroud takes some snaps and we can just kind of look at what the offensive line looks like and get like our first preview of that. So as soon as that happens, that'll probably be one of the things we break down. Who's the left tackle? Who's the right tackle? Because last year, Kamari Lassiter was pretty much immediately the guy. And that was an interesting takeaway. Like for the talk about this not being that big of a deal. Last year was the first time where the reports, the observations from Stutes were, okay, Kamari Lassiter looks like he's going to be the starting corner. So we'll see what that goes. As far as Dameon Pierce and Dare Ogunbowale, if Joe Mixon's not going, then there's that. And that is a thing. That definitely is a thing if Joe Mixon can't go. Is it a lingering injury? Was it something that happened away from the building? What does that look like? We'll see. I mean, it was an interesting little nug that just kind of dropped a little bit. So we get a first look at that. And we know how DeMeco is with injuries. He'll be very, very tight-lipped. No, we're excited about what Joe can do for us this offseason. He'll throw something like that out there. But other than that, it's a great time to be alive. We got Texans on the field this week. We got Texans on the field next week. And we got the coverage right here in the locker room. So it's gonna be fun. Let's take in the vibes. Let's see what CJ has to say, what DeMeco has to say. And let's enjoy it. It's a fun season. It's a very pivotal season. It's a very fun season. And it's going to be here before we know it. Training camp starts month plus. So football is back. Astros not really an overly exciting team right now. They're hanging around. The Rockets, they're going to have an exciting offseason. But we got the Texans holding it down, especially on this channel. So it's going to be a fun time to observe. And we got you stacked tomorrow. 1 hour minimum on both streams tomorrow for sure, between SNL and right here. We're gonna have plenty of stuff to get into, plenty of stuff to talk about, and plenty of observations for you. And we appreciate you for coming through. So be sure to subscribe, be sure to like the damn video, and always remember when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. Love y'all, appreciate y'all. Football's almost here. I can't believe I get to get up and go cover a practice.
Every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.